and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on.
I'm awash with the stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavour show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of...
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've got this really interesting set of sources today. They give such a close look at planning something really significant, a major personal event, but like under intense pressure.
Yeah, and today we're using a funeral as the main example, looking at how this one family had to navigate, tradition, very specific personal wishes.
And some things that just came completely out of the blue, real curveballs.
Absolutely. So our mission here really is to pull out the key details, the insights from this material. We want to get a feel for the dynamics when you're trying to plan the right kind of send-off, well, juggling things you just couldn't have seen coming.
And believe us, this family, they faced some really surprising stuff. There was a sudden medical emergency.
Right, involving someone crucial.
Yeah. And then there's this rather unusual request about a pet.
Definitely adds another layer. Okay, so let's dive in. The sources, they kind of drop us right into the thick of it the day before the funeral is meant to happen.
The day before. Talk about pressure. And the first massive problem they hit, the vicar they'd planned, Father Crispin, he's suddenly unavailable tomorrow.
Yeah, unavailable because apparently Kate was giving him a massage for his shoulder.
Great, that's what it says.
And during that, he had some kind of medical event described as a faint. Paramedics had to be called. He's taken off to hospital.
It sounds absolutely terrifying. I mean, for Kate especially.
Oh, yeah. The good news, though, is he's actually okay. He even managed to send a message later that morning. But the tests they did, they found a heart arrhythmia. Needs looking into. So, yeah, he's definitely not available for the funeral the next day. No way.
Wow. Just imagine that. The person leading the ceremony is suddenly in hospital because of something that just happened. And Kate, while the sources say she was incredibly shaken, feared he'd actually die.
Keeps reliving it, apparently. Understandable.
But then there's this kind of incredible twist, isn't there? Father Crispin actually told her she did everything right.
Yeah, and that the whole incident, as scary as it was, might have inadvertently saved his life by flagging up this heart condition.
Amazing. What a thing to process.
Definitely. But okay, back to the immediate crisis. The funeral is tomorrow. They need someone, anyone, to lead the service. Like, now.
Which just sends them into this immediate scramble, doesn't it? Trying to find a replacement. And Gran, well, she'd specifically wanted Father Crispin.
Right, because he'd been sitting with her at the Laurels, that connection.
Exactly. So that specific wish makes finding someone else, especially last minute, much more difficult.
So the sources pretty quickly point towards Alan. He seems like the main, maybe the only possibility given how little time they had.
Yeah, although there was apparently a bit of hesitation from Kate. She admits she hadn't been, particularly nice to him recently.
Awkward timing.
Right. Worried he might just say no or not want to help her out.
But, well, needs must. She made the call. And Alan, turns out he already knew about Father Crispin.
Oh, right. Word gets around fast.
Seems so. And he didn't mess about. Suggested meeting face-to-face right away at the vicarage.
And Alan, even though he was just planning to attend as a mourner, he agreed to step in. The sources really highlight his reaction, saw it as a great honor.
Committed to giving Peggy the funeral she deserved. It's quite something.
It really is. So that huge crisis point, finding someone to lead the service, it gets resolved remarkably quickly, just, out of sheer necessity and Alan's willingness.
Shows how people can step up, doesn't it? When things get really tough.
Totally. Okay, so with the vicar situation sorted, their focus kind of shifts. Now it's about crafting the service itself with burial details.
And this is where you start to really see Peggy's personality shine through in the plans.
Yeah, like the music. That seems pretty straightforward, actually.
Using the Tea Rooms playlist. The 40s and 50s stuff they usually have on.
Yeah.
Easy, personal, just right.
Simple but meaningful. And Kenton sorting out the PA system. And there's that lovely idea from Tom.
Oh yeah, the microphone.
For people to share memories of Gran, if they want to, during the service.
Nice touch. Very personal. And the bearers are decided to Tom, Henry, Helen, Adam, James, and Debbie.
And it sounds like Tony stepped aside so Henry could do it because Henry was really keen.
Right. And there's that practical note. The Undertaker's going to arrange them by height.
Huh. Well, I suppose someone has to think of these things. Avoids any awkwardness on the day.
True. The final hymn. Abide with me.
Ah, classic. Described as very traditional, very Peggy. Just fits, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Then the burial itself, that's a graveside committal, specifically next to Jack Woolley's plot.
Another personal connection there. And they're really thinking through the practical side too, aren't they?
Definitely. Checking about mobility for Peggy's friends from the Laurels.
Right, making sure they can manage. And planning for the gravediggers to put down boards.
Yeah, around the graveside. Because they're expecting, quote, a scrum of people, which could make it tricky, especially for wheelchairs. Sensible planning.
Very sensible. And then there's that ritual they decided on, inviting people to drop a bit of soil onto the coffin.
Ah, yes. Father Crispin apparently suggested that initially.
And the family liked the idea. It's described as a nice last gesture of farewell.
Especially maybe for people who aren't speaking but want that sort of physical act of saying goodbye.
Exactly. So they'll have a container of earth ready and a trowel. It's a small thing, but quite powerful, I think.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, so moving on from the service and the burial, let's talk about the wake.
Right, the gathering afterwards. It's happening upstairs at the bowl. A joint effort with the tea room, it sounds like.
Yeah, and the food and drink, naturally, are a big focus. They're really trying to include Peggy's favorites.
Like the scrap cake. Auntie Jill's recipe. Leonard apparently even entered it into a show once.
Huh. That's brilliant. A cake with pedigree.
Definitely. Crystallized fruit was also mentioned, but maybe too much work.
Yeah, Natasha thought it was too time-consuming, so the suggestion was just buy some from Underwood. You know, sometimes you have to be practical.
True. And of course, the usual suspects, sandwiches, pastries, salads.
Of course. But here's a fantastic little detail that really captures Peggy.
Oh, yeah.
She apparently had this saying from years ago, found at a jumble sale. People must have access to tea at all times.
Oh, I love that. Brilliant.
Isn't it great?
Yeah.
And you could bet that rule is going to be strictly enforced at the wake.
Absolutely. Tea on demand. And the general vibe they're going for is very open, isn't it? The more the merrier.
Exactly. The sources mention that wakes, after the intensity and release of the funeral, they can actually become quite lively occasions.
Yeah, it's not just about sadness, is it? It's about remembering, sharing stories, supporting each other.
Finding that comfort together. Okay, so now we get to maybe the most unique element of the whole plan.
Go on.
The sources talk about one very important job
Okay.
that Peggy specifically wanted Justin to do.
Justin, what was it?
Bringing her cat, Hilda.
The cat!
Yes, bringing Hilda the cat to the funeral and the wake and looking after her throughout.
You're kidding, to the actual funeral.
Apparently Peggy was very clear about it. Wanted Hilda to have a front row seat, called her her best friend.
Wow, okay. Hilda the cat gets VIP treatment. How did Justin take that?
Well, pretty much as you'd expect. Disbelief, apparently some joking, feeling he was totally the wrong person. Hardly a cat person, is the quote.
I can imagine.
Tried suggesting other people from Bridge Farm, apparently, but everyone else is busy with other things.
So he's stuck with cat duty. Is Hilda an easy cat?
Doesn't sound like it. Hilda has to stay in her travel basket the whole time, and handling her might require, get this, thick gloves and a leather coat.
Oh dear.
She's described as capricious.
Capricious. That's one word for it. Sounds like a nightmare. They mentioned Pat used to get on with her, but now their dagger's drawn.
Yeah, it seems Hilda isn't the friendliest feline. This whole task sounds like it has high potential for chaos, or at least some memorable moments.
Definitely memorable. But wait, there's more to this cat story, isn't there?
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really interesting. Auntie Lillian steps in,
Okay.
and she reveals the, let's say, real reason Justin got assigned this job. It turns out while Peggy definitely wanted Hilda there, she never actually said who should look after her.
Yeah.
Lillian admits she gave the job to Justin.
Why?
Partly, she says, to keep him out of mischief.
Ah, a classic ulterior motive. Managing Justin while managing the cat.
Exactly, dual purpose. And the other reason Lillian gives, to bring a smile to Kate's face during such a tough time.
Oh, that's actually quite sweet in a way. Injecting a bit of absurdity, maybe?
Perhaps. So it's not just about honoring Peggy's slightly eccentric wish for Hilda. It's also the strategic move, managing family dynamics, maybe trying to create a little distraction, or even levity on a really difficult day.
That completely changes how you see the cat job, doesn't it? It's not just quirky anymore. It's like this layered piece of family strategy playing out amidst the grief. Adds a whole other dimension.
It absolutely does. And when you look across all these sources, it's just fascinating how they show all the intricate layers involved in planning something like this, a really personal send-off.
Yeah, it's this real mix, isn't it? Honoring traditions, sticking to very specific wishes, even the odd ones.
While dealing with sudden crises under massive pressure and just navigating all the family feelings and dynamics.
It really shows these events aren't just about logistics, are they? They're such deeply human moments. They reflect the person, the relationships, how people cope and connect when they're vulnerable.
And both the big things, like the vicar emergency and the small quirky details over the cat, the rule about tea, they all shape the day. They all become part of how that person is remembered.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how these moments of, intense pressure and these personal details, sometimes the weird or chaotic ones, actually become central to the whole memory of the event.
Yeah, it really does.
So thinking about all this, Father Crispin's medical emergency potentially saving his life, the whole slightly absurd task of managing Hilda the capricious cat, maybe providing a moment of shared laughter or distraction, it poses a question, doesn't it? How do you think moments of chaos or maybe unusual requests during really difficult times can sometimes lead to these unexpected positive outcomes, or maybe memorable, even humorous experiences that actually end up helping people cope and connect?
So, what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just moving mics around again.
So, what do you do?
I'll do the spot effects on the archers.
Are you what we call Foley then?
Kind of, yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production?
Yep, that's the ball bar.
This one?
Yep,
Haley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. So, due in 2 months, not much chance of that now. But, I mean, it would have been a stretch for him for him actually, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help him go along.
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever